Today, everybody tells us we should talk about sex to our children, but nobody tells us just how.
I'm a coward when it comes to talking about sex with my children. A few bad starts have scared me off completely.
In this film, we are going to discuss quite frankly the things that are normal and to be expected in the development of children in relation to sex.
Mary, the baby doesn't come out of your navel. Let me tell you how it is. There's a special opening just in front of the place where you have your BM. It's very, very tiny in a little girl, but as you grow, it grows too, right along with the rest of you.
Some of you may become somewhat uncomfortable as parts of this film unfold, but I think if you listen carefully, you will agree that the concepts will contribute to the rearing of a mature person who has a healthy, responsible attitude toward the sexual side of his life.
Every so often I get a strong sex urge, and the only way I can take care of it is to masturbate. And when I do, I feel awful. It's just like I've committed a crime or something. And it worries me, and I say, well, I won't do it anymore. And when I do, it goes away for a while, and I come back and do it again. And when I do control myself for a while, I end up with a wet dream.
George, I'm really pleased that you can tell me about this. Perhaps it's because we've known each other for so long. We've talked about the importance of answering the questions of the curious child. Equally important is how we react to his behavior. As children get a little older, there is a behavior pattern that is common to almost all boys and a large number of girls. I'm referring, of course, to masturbation. The only thing I can tell you as a doctor is that what you're doing is just part of growing up. It's something you probably will do once in a while, whether you think it's a good idea or not. I hope I can reassure you so that you aren't concerned. From a medical point of view, George, I only wish society could look at it in its proper light.
There are two basic objectives to which we would like to draw your attention. First, note the many things that you should not do because they can be damaging to a healthy attitude.
It may sound funny to you, but boy, when I change my pants, I'd like to crawl in that locker. I feel so undeveloped.
That's not so funny. Before we moved here, I used to go to a school where we had to go swimming in the Bear. I was so embarrassed about the size of my penis that we used to dread the days we had to go swimming. Even though it was my best sport, I was good at it too, like you. Boy, what I wouldn't have given for a fig leaf, even from a small tree.
What parents should do is to reassure their boy that his eventual physical appearance has little to do with the vast differences that occur at puberty. What's more, every boy should realize that the size of his genital organs has nothing to do with fertility or his capacity as a male.
I never had a good enough understanding myself to really explain things.
I don't even know at what age to start. When should I begin?
When my kids ask me anything, I get butterflies in my stomach. I suspect my husband does too. I know he does. He evades these discussions like the plague.
Unless you're an extremely unusual audience, you will welcome some of this help. Because most people, parents or young people who are concerned about their own attitudes, have not in their own lives had the opportunity to gain this kind of insight. Let me at this point make a clear-cut scientific statement. Masturbation is not harmful. The young child often plays with his genitals, and after puberty, masturbation is a common release mechanism for the sex drive. Now I would like to turn to an entirely different subject, one of particular interest to the girls, menstruation.
There's been a real change in our approach to education about menstruation. It's hard to believe what grandmother experienced, but let's hear her story.
I'll never forget when I was 14 years old. I went to the little outhouse on our farm. My new dress was stained and there was blood on my underclothes. I ran inside and showed my mother. And all she said was, "You're menstruating," and turned and walked away. I had to find out how to take care of myself from my cousin.
Were any of your girlfriends told in advance by their mothers?
No, I'm afraid not. They were just as scared as I was. Some of them had older sisters who told them. One thing I was sure of, I would never let this happen to my daughter.
And when did you first learn about menstrual periods?
Oh, I really can't remember.
Well, now that you are a woman of experience, having had menstrual periods for several years, Looking at the information that you received before you started, how would you evaluate it?
I just always sort of seemed to know something about it, and I knew that I'd have them someday. I do remember, though, when I started to develop, my mother reminded me that I'd probably be starting soon, and that's when she went into the sort of information that you gave in the animation. Not as clearly as that, but I felt I knew what the score was. And then she did a very practical thing. She gave me a belt and a pad, and I was all set.
If there is no fertilization, menstruation occurs. Since the uterine lining, or that nesty place little Mary was told about, is not needed to nourish the fertilized egg, it is sloughed off. This sloughing off of the broken down cells and blood from the lining of the uterus and their discharge through the vagina is what menstruation actually is.
Hi, Mom, what you buy?
Hi, hon. A few personal things for myself. Whoop.
Mommy, what's this?
Well, I guess, honey, you're old enough now to understand these things. Those are sanitary pads for me, honey. You know that mothers have a special place inside them where the babies grow before they come out? Well, each month in a grown-up woman, a sort of soft, nesty place builds up. And some of the nest is blood. And if a woman is going to have a baby, she needs this nest for the baby to grow in. Now, let me tell you what the pads are for. If no baby has started there, then the blood in the nest isn't needed, and it just dribbles out of the vagina for a few days.
Here's a place where I want to make a brief comment about the influence of the advertising world in stimulating sexuality. Sales pitches for titillating devices such as perfumes, clothes, makeup are designed to lure the young girl or her over-anxious parent into accepting this exaggerated emphasis on sexuality or sex appeal as the standard, and the use of these devices as essential for competing sexually.
And then a fresh new nest place starts building up. That's what the pads are for, to catch the blood.
Does it hurt?
It shouldn't. It's something that happens to every girl when she grows up.
Parents should recognize that the feelings of inferiority that develop at this stage can be lasting and damaging for many years to come. Those who have hurdled this period successfully can look back comfortably and with amusement. But from the child's point of view, the problems can be serious business.
It adds to the marriage, makes it more complete. The adolescent boy has other problems, too. I'm talking about his problems in growth and development, which can be as disturbing to him as his sex pressures. Parents don't talk freely about sexual matters with their children. They can't. They've been reared in such a way that it's a bugaboo. They don't have enough facts. Parents don't know when or how to begin.
Until when you're grown up, it gets to be just about this size. Now, when the baby's ready to be born, it stretches up to be about this size. Just big enough for the baby to slip through, head first. Then after the baby's born, it goes back to its regular size.
Parents should be aware of this, that this sort of pressure frequently helps set an artificial pace for the teenager. A young girl who is not yet ready or really interested in these devices may often feel that something is wrong with her since she's not really interested in these things when other girls are. On the other hand, many other girls who acquire the desired allure are as yet by no means mature in other ways, and they find the stage set for many problems they aren't ready to handle. They don't do it that way anymore. Perhaps you've heard some of the old wives' tales about don't take a bath, don't wash your hair, don't eat pickles while you're menstruating. Now, I would like to see if we can summarize what we have presented. Sex education, as such, is not difficult. It is only uncomfortable for parents because of their backgrounds and lack of know-how. From our experiences with many people, we have tried to bring out misconceptions and facts not well understood and tried to explain them on a scientific basis. It should be evident the advantages of starting early with explanations to children.
If you ask most parents what they really want for their children, the answer fundamentally is a good, satisfying, happy life. If we begin early to create an atmosphere of understanding in which the child is allowed to express his real feelings, we give honest answers to his questions, we're well on the road to the kind of parent-child relationship that fosters the development of true maturity. Problems related to sex are not isolated problems, but are, for all but the rare individual, a part of some greater difficulty. Good communication between parent and child is one of the best ways of preventing problems.